Welcome to Blue Talks. Hey everybody, it is Corey Poirier. It's exciting to be here with Lisa Benitz. And Lisa, I'm going to jump right into things. Where I'd like to start first, in bringing you onto the Corey Poirier show, is to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about who you are and I guess we'll call it your backstory.
Awesome. So I am a global space whisperer. I actually work with spaces around the world. I not only work with spaces physically in the space, but I also coach. I also have a radio show, and I facilitate classes so that I can empower others to learn about the language of spaces.
Love that. And so when we talk about spaces, because I feel like certain people will know exactly what you're talking about and other people will be,
what is she talking
what's
about?
space?
Yeah.
What's a space? So when you talk spaces, you're talking about
Physical
spaces. And how much of that, and I know what you're doing is unique from this, but how much of that is tied to when we hear about feng shui?
Actually, I'm a feng shui master. I've studied interior design, interiors, feng shui. I've studied so many different ways of working with spaces, and actually what came together for me a couple of years ago was somebody actually said, "You are a space whisperer." So it's actually an accumulation of everything that I've been trained in that actually shows people that spaces actually tell us the truth. They don't lie. So you might have everything looking beautiful in your home, but I can actually walk in and your space will immediately tell me it's not always what it seems. So and that's where I start to say to people, look, if you want to change things in your life, these are things that I would suggest that would bring more of what you're desiring. So if it's increase in business, increase in health, increase in money, or if you're having health concerns, then what can we shift and change within your space that's actually going to contribute to you feeling better?
So when I hear that, I think about, you hear people talk about, they'll walk into a space and say, oh, the energy in here is not good, or vice versa. And I guess the question, and actually we just were involved in an event together where you walked in and I think you said the energy here is fantastic. So what can a person do about that? Meaning, the person that doesn't know much about space, they go in, they might not even feel that energy that you're feeling, but it still could be somehow impacting them. So do you recommend people that don't know a lot about spaces, should they tap into somebody else and see if the space has a good feel, or is it just waiting and if somebody says it's a bad feel, then do something about it?
So there's two things. Yes, if spaces isn't your thing, then certainly reach out to someone like myself that can immediately tap into the energy of what's going on. And when I say tap in, it's just it's like putting a electrical plug into a socket. It's that quick for me. And everybody has this capacity. Everybody has this gift. We just shut it down as we become adults. So schools, parents, oh no, that, you don't get that. And this is the space and this is how it feels. And this is how we're going to put furniture, or in a business, this is where our staff are going to be. And yet when you go and talk to people in the space, if you're dealing with in a company, for example, I was in Florida last year and the staff were all going, oh, thank you, because we don't like this and we don't like this. And it was just shifting something within the entranceway of the company. It was preventing business from coming in. And I said, if we can just shift this and this, and none of the staff liked the actual entranceway. They were just trying to be nice and saying, well, it's okay. And I said, truthfully, do you really like the entranceway? No, we don't. And I said, okay. And so then I talked to the owner of the company. I said, I know it sounds crazy, but actually, if we can just shift this, you're going to change the way you receive your business. Because entranceways, doorways are the entranceway to your life, to your business, to your relationships, to everything.
Well, and to that point, you saying to him, I know it sounds crazy. I mean, theoretically, you could almost say, I know it sounds crazy, but do you want happier staff?
Happier staff.
Whether you understand, because that's the key thing. Sometimes we don't understand it.
Yeah.
But whether you understand it or not, your staff are even saying it. So even if it's just to get happier staff,
yeah,
isn't it worth trying?
Absolutely.
If you don't like it, you can still move it back to the thing that nobody liked.
Yeah. And actually, one of the ways that I love to play when I'm giving a consultation and I'm talking to people that might have resistance to hearing about this, I said, let's just have an experiment. Try it. Just try it. See what happens. You might not be able to pinpoint one specific thing, but just watch the way people interact within the company, the way people seem to be happier, and just play with it for about a month. And if you want to go back to what you previously had, that's great. 99% of the time, they're like, I don't know what it was that shifted or changed here, but everybody's, happier, or things are shifting and business is coming in. And so it always works.
So here's the question then, because there's some people that I feel, just as speculation here, I feel there's some people that you're probably not going to sell them on the idea of what's actually happening. So it sounds like you've run into that. So sometimes it's more important to fix this energy and space than it is to convince them that this exists.
Well, I don't know if you remember, there was an individual at the last event that we were at, and they had 2 offices, and they were, nope, I'm good. I'm so busy. So they have to be ready. They have to be ready to shift and commit to the change, however it's going to show up. If they're not willing to, then for me, I don't have a point of view of whether they're going to shift it or not. If they choose to be where they're going to be and they're happy there, then awesome. Stay there. Don't move.
So then a follow-up to that is decluttering. So how big of a factor, let's say it this way, because I know there's people that's what they do. I'm a decluttering person. I help people declutter. So how much of a part of that is what you do? Or is it a part of it? Or, and I guess we'll say, is it just a small part of it? So in other words, do people come to you and say, I need decluttering help? Or do you go into a place maybe after it's already been decluttered? And so how does that fit in?
So every client is different. Every individual is different. And some people want the physical help, assistance, especially if you're dealing with a hoarder, because you're dealing with a lot of emotions and they actually can't see through the stuff. Others, they just need somebody to remind them, if you can do this, this, and this, they're on it and they're doing it, and then they're excited. Things move and things shift. So decluttering is always a part of the process in any way. So decluttering can be a filing cabinet, it could be your computer, it could be your cell phone. It depends on what you're using in business, or all of the above. Because clutter is also a reflection of what we are not willing to see. We're just sort of piling up and avoiding. People do that all the time. And we can avoid maybe that project that's over there, so we'll fill up our space with something else because we really don't want to do whatever it is we don't want to do.
And is there times, because I know for me, and I'm on the road so much that it's almost like my space is the hotel room I'm in. So it's a little bit different than being, say, fixed in an office, even a home office. But I will say, when I'm in my home office, I go through spells where I keep it fairly, let's call it tidy. And then I go through other spells where it's cluttered. But here's the interesting part. So I have a question out of this. My decluttering is never office work decluttering. So it's stuff where I'm like, oh, where should I put my John Lennon statue right now? Because I got to move it from where it was because we're putting a new table, and I put it on my desk, and then it sits there for 3 weeks. So, but my question out of that is, it doesn't seem like for me maybe an avoidance thing. It seems like I want to call it a laziness thing, but it's like this is easy to do right now. I'm always in the go. I'm in a hurry. I don't have time to deal with that right now. But I mean, there's obviously some underlying thing probably that's factoring into that. But I don't think it's to do with let's say procrastination, because I tackle everything.
Yeah.
Like, nothing gets left undone. So I mean, I don't know how to factor that in, because I struggle with that, where I'm just like, I don't have time to bring it. We have downstairs where some of that stuff goes to die.
Yeah.
So I have to bring it down there, and Shelly wants to have another flea market soon with the stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have spaces to put it down there that it's not, and down there's not cluttered, but I just get busy and I'm just go, okay, I'll set that there for now.
Okay, so a couple of things.
Yeah.
Is our spaces are a breathing entity. They're breathing. It's just you change your shirt every day, you shower. Our spaces aren't meant to be stagnant. So it's a good thing to move and shift things. So the fact that you've picked something up and you put it there, you've just changed the energy of the whole space. It's like getting an acupuncture treatment, which is really cool. So knowing that you're going to do something with it, you're in a creative process. You're a very creative person. So go with it instead of sort of giving yourself a hard time and judging yourself. Oh, I should have done this. We're not based on the television shows that everything sort of is beautiful. We have to live in our spaces. So as a creative person, you want to be able to know that you can put something down and then say, I'd like to look at it and think, where would I like that to go now? And the second part, you talked about putting things in the basement. So if you can imagine the basement as the bowels of your body.
Okay.
So it's just keep in mind that whatever you sort of stuff into a storage area, especially if it's a basement below your living area, you're actually constipating your home.
Okay.
Not the most glamorous term, but
I get it.
when I tell people that, they go, oh. And it can show up in your body. It can show up in your body in a health way. It can constipate your business, and things become slow and sluggish, and they're not moving perhaps at the pace you'd like.
Yeah.
So basements, even though we call them storage areas, get rid of things.
So now, another thing I'm curious about, I'd love to get your take on this, because I feel whether it's a person's watching now and they're an entrepreneur, they're a CEO, we're all dealing with some form of this. So another thing we run into at our place is, so one thing we do, we don't bring work into the bedroom. So like no papers, no computers, no nothing goes in the bedroom.
That's good.
I feel like we've come a long way, and we've never brought papers in. I will say every now and then, I haven't done it, but Shelly sometimes be working on the computer in the bedroom, but we don't even do that anymore. But for a while, I was using my cell phone as my alarm in the bedroom, and I think that's very common in this day and age. But I wanted to get rid of that, so I've been really good. Now when I'm traveling, I'm not so good, but when I'm home now, I have a little alarm, an old school alarm I use, and then the phone stay in a different room. So we're going in the right direction, I feel, with that. But one challenge we run into is having a 2-year-old now, and Shelly wants his toys to be kind of in a common area, so people are visiting, and that he actually can be in the same room, and he's not off in a different room. But you can see probably where the challenge with that goes. He just walks to the center of the room, picks up the Lego, dumps them all over his head, and then they're all over the whole floor. And so I find we're daily tidying up the living room. And I know that could be just part of being a parent, but
Welcome to parenthood.
I know.
So
is there anything we could do about that at all, or
well,
or should we even worry about that? I know I think it stresses her out a little bit.
yeah. So we can always have what we call a defined area for kids, but when they're really little, they want to be where the action is. And so right now you're cool, you're fun, she's fun, you're cool. At some point, when they're teenagers, you're not going to be fun and cool anymore, and then they're going to be in their own room, closed door, creating whatever they're creating.
Right.
So it's kind of it's a nice thing to have that interaction. And yeah, you can turn it into games and cleaning up and setting up a defined area for certain things like their trucks and their Lego, and it's just the process of parenting.
Okay. and he's pretty good. Like, well, we have a song. It's not our song. It's I think a song on one of the cartoons.
Barney, probably or whatever.
I
that
don't
one
know if
is.
it is.
Yeah.
It's basically something like clean up, everybody clean. And we sing that song, and he literally does his own cleanup. And he's 2, so he's doing pretty good with cleaning it up. But like I said, it's just, I think it's more of when you invite people over and they show up, and then and they get it. I think everybody gets it. But I think we're new parents, green parents. We don't know that everybody gets it.
Yeah.
I think we know deep down, but it's easy to second guess that. So I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
I mean, the energy seems good. Toy energy, I think, is better than a lot of other energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it's
Absolutely.
him playing, it's him excited and laughing, and
Absolutely.
they have that amazing infectious laugh.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just thought I'd ask you about
Yeah.
that. So as we start to wind down, Lisa, in terms of spaces and people working within spaces, maybe that's a question for you. What do you recommend people do? And again, I visualize, the solopreneurs that are watching this, the entrepreneurs that are traveling. What does a person traveling do in terms of their space to try to, you're in a hotel.
Yeah.
And your one choice is you're living in a suitcase either way. But one choice, I know some people just kind of take everything out and put it everywhere they want. And then other people just live out of the suitcase, literally. Is there any recommendations you have there for keeping the space manageable?
So I travel with my work, and one of the things that I have every time I go to a hotel room, I sort of suss it out, and I walk around and I look at the bed, and inevitably there's a big black television right there in front of your bed. So I always carry a scarf and I cover it up, because that black hole literally can suck the energy out of the room. And it's a reflection of all the other people that have previously been there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep.
So
I never thought of that.
yeah. So you can imagine the number of people that have been there previously.
Yeah.
And I bring a candle with me. If I'm staying long term, I bring flowers and put flowers in the room. And really long term, so Airbnbs and different things, I've even gotten a little bowl and put a fish in it. So you're bringing in just a completely, it's like bringing home into your space. And then I hang up the clothes. And I have little pouches for all my sort of intimate things. So when I put things in a drawer, they're not sort of touching all the other people's things. And then, I put my suitcase away and I set up my desk, and I have a system. And for me, that really helps me with my business and treating it just like my home, as opposed to calling it a hotel.
So 2 questions on that. One is about the TV. Do you watch TV? So in other words, do you take because you said you cover it up.
If I'm traveling and I'm for business, I tend to, I might watch the news at one point.
Is that what you do though? Then you just take it off?
I just take it off. I put it back again
Okay.
when I go to sleep, so that I'm not feeling this big black, because I don't have a television in my bedroom. And the second thing is, if I'm traveling for business and pleasure, then my free time is out looking at everything. I can watch television at home.
True story.
Yeah.
The second part was, and then I'm gonna bring us to our last question.
Yeah.
But the second part is something that my girlfriend does. She's really big on First Nations culture and Aboriginal culture, and so she's been in multiple sweat lodges, and she's really desperate now to get back to one. But one of the things she took from their culture is, from that culture, is smudging.
Yes.
And so when we moved into her house, and then I'd say even just since our son was born, I bet you she smudged like 20 times. She smudges him, me, and stuff. And she's a really big believer that smudging that negative energy out is powerful. But my question is, do you have any experience with that? Do you have people that that do that? What are your thoughts on that?
All of the above. So yes. So I've done everything from clearing spaces with smudging, with orange peels, with incense, with bells, clearing entities like spirits that have been left. Because often a spirit or a ghost is somebody that actually doesn't know they don't have a body. So they're still associated either with the land or with the building. And so the interesting thing about that is most people out there realize if there's something attached to the space, they'll say something's different, something's weird. Even if you've lived in the space and you've come home, sometimes we pick up an energy and we bring it into our space and something's different. So all of those things that she's doing are fabulous. So tell her to keep it up.
Okay.
And she sounds like she's somebody that's completely aware of when something shifts energetically in a space. And it happens in companies and businesses. It happens with companies that employees leave, or there's been a transition within the company staff-wise. All of that.
So it's interesting when I think about again, her learning that from Aboriginal culture.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a sweat lodge, the first one I ever went to, and this tells me how much they believe this. It was actually in Alberta where I went.
Yeah.
And I got out of the sweat lodge. So we all smudged, and then we were right at kind of the door. Actually, no, we were inside and we all smudged or something like that. And I went out. They asked me to go get something. I went out, and I was supposed to do something, smudge or something on my way back in. And because I didn't do it, every single person had to come out and start all over because they said I was bringing stuff back in with me. That's how powerful they felt energy is and us dragging around with us. So when you said that, I really do feel that, that they really feel and believe that it's not just a smudge once and you're good for life. Like they literally like you went out to pick up, I think it was because they make an offering, and I think I wanted to pick up a cigarette for them. And I think they were like, well, that's there's some negative energy there, so we now have to all get back to the smudge. I felt horrible because now everybody's got to get back out. Like, we were just ready to go.
Yeah.
And it was, I want to say like January.
It's cold.
Yeah, and so you go there, and when you're doing a sweat lodge, it's too hot in there to be wearing like hot, heavy clothes.
I know. I've been in like 3 times, and it is.
Yeah, it's hot in there, but then you're doing it in January, so it's cold outside, and so nobody wants to get back out again.
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah.
So my last official question, Lisa, is the time machine question. I try to ask this to every guest I bring on to any of my shows, but the time machine question goes like this: if you could jump into a time machine, go back and visit a younger Lisa, and give her some life advice based on what you've learned in the years since, what do you think you might tell younger Lisa?
I would say to the younger Lisa that you were never wrong in your awareness with spaces, and to trust your belief system, no matter what people are saying around you, to follow that. And I would have been working in this realm way sooner and not being sidetracked by other people's saying you've got to do this and you've got to go in interior design and interior decorating and feng shui and all of the different. Actually just follow what you actually know, because we're all born with a gift, every one of us, and so for me to know my younger Lisa, I would have said follow that from the very beginning. And but I'm not, I'd have to say that I'm really grateful for my journey that I've had so far.
Awesome. Lisa, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And really, I guess my last, if I can say this,
Of course.
my last target for everyone out there is changing the world one space at a time is really my target, to see and show people how they can shift their spaces